Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, things are going to get kind of mind-blowing, maybe even a little freaky. We're tackling artificial general intelligence.
And not AGI, like way off in the future, right? We're talking about the very real possibility of it emerging just a few years from now.
Right. This isn't our usual sci-fi speculation. This is based on a wild but surprisingly grounded report from a former OpenAI insider, Leopold Aschenbrenner.
Seriously, fascinating stuff. I mean, it feels like just yesterday everyone was debating if machines could ever really think, and now, bam, we might be on the verge of AGI. This report really digs into the how, the sheer scale of what's being built.
And the global forces at play, which is honestly what grabbed me. But before we go full speed ahead, let's rewind for a sec. Remember that jump from GPT-2 to GPT-4 earlier this year? Huge, right?
Huge is an understatement. But our source, Aschenbrenner, he argues that might have just been the warm-up act.
Okay, now you've got to explain that.
Right, so he uses this method of counting the orders of magnitude, to show how AI capability explodes alongside computing power.
Like how much more powerful something gets.
Exactly. Think of it like this GPT-2 back in 2019. That's like a bright preschooler playing with words. Impressive, but still learning the basics. GPT-4. That's the kid acing the SATs, applying to college. Whole different level.
Okay, I'm with you.
So the report says we're due for that kind of preschool to college grad jump again, but this time by 2027, just based on how much more compute power is coming online.
So it's not just AI getting a little better each year, it's that the rate of improvement is itself accelerating like crazy.
You got it. And the thing is, this isn't some wild guess. AI has blown past even the skeptics' predictions for years now. Remember that math benchmark? Those crazy hard high school math competition problems?
Vaguely.
Right, well, even AI researchers thought those were impossible for machines to crack. Within a year, AI was solving them with like 90% accuracy.
Wow. Okay, so point taken. When this Aschenbrenner guy says something big is coming, we should probably listen. But AGI by 2027 is wild enough. The report goes even further, though, right? Talks about this intelligence explosion.
Yeah, and it's intense. This is key to understanding what we're talking about. Basically, once you hit AGI, those systems could start automating AI research itself.
Hold on. So not just humans building better AI, but the AI taking over and doing it way faster.
Exactly. Imagine millions of AI researchers, each working 10, even 100 times faster than us.
So not just making progress faster, it's like hitting fast forward on evolution itself.
That's the idea. The report compares it to living through the entire 20th century's worth of change in just a few years.
Okay, now I see why this report is causing such a stir. AGI is one thing, but that timeline, that's next level disruptive. It's not all doom and gloom predictions, though, right? It lays out some serious challenges, too, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And not just the tech hurdles either. We're talking geopolitical tensions, crazy ethical dilemmas, even philosophical stuff about what intelligence and control even mean anymore.
Okay, well, let's unpack some of that. This is where it gets really interesting. One of the first things that jumps out is just the sheer scale of it all. The computing power alone. The trillion-dollar cluster, he calls it.
And even that might be underselling it. We're talking needing the energy output of a small U.S. state just to run these AI models.
Server farms the size of cities.
Consuming more power than entire countries. The source mentions tech companies buying up power plants left and right to keep up with the demand.
So this isn't Silicon Valley playing around anymore. This is massive industrial scale, maybe even governments getting directly involved.
100%. And that leads to the next challenge, security. The report basically says, compared to what's at stake, security at AI labs is laughable.
Okay, that's a little unsettling. Why is security such a big deal here?
Because stealing the weights, basically the blueprint of the AI itself, would be handing a rival nation the keys to the kingdom.
And in this case, the source is mainly talking about China.
Right. They get that. They instantly leapfrog ahead in the intelligence explosion. Huge implications, global balance of power, the whole 9 yards he compares it to.
Handing over the nuclear launch codes, I think he actually says.
Yep. And for good reason. Not just economic advantage anymore, it's who controls the future of intelligence itself.
Okay, so say we manage to build AGI, keep it out of the wrong hands. Then there's the really big question. How do we even control something potentially smarter than us? What's to stop it from deciding humans are irrelevant or worse?
That's the trillion-dollar question. What experts call the super-alignment problem, one of the most complex, daunting challenges facing AI research.
And not something we've figured out yet, clearly?
Not even close. Current methods rely on humans understanding what the AI is doing to set up guardrails. But once it's smarter than us, those methods become about as effective as.
Asking a toddler to supervise a rocket scientist.
Exactly. We need fundamentally new ways of thinking about control. How do we align these systems with human values when they could surpass our ability to even comprehend what they're doing?
So it's not just building the most powerful AI, it's building it responsibly, which I'm guessing is a whole other can of worms. And this is where the whole values part comes in, right? Like, the report argues this isn't just a tech race anymore.
Right. It's about the values that'll shape the future. The source is very clear about the dangers of an authoritarian regime like China wielding this.
And he's not mincing words.
Yeah.
Draws some chilling comparisons, historically speaking.
He's talking about unprecedented levels of surveillance, control. Things could get very, very bad very quickly. And that's why he's advocating so strongly for the U.S., for the free world, to lead on this.
Not just for economic reasons, but for the sake of freedom, democracy, human rights globally. It's a lot to process. But it gets even more intense. He actually argues that the U.S. might have to launch its own massive Manhattan Project-style program for AGI.
Yeah, that got my attention. A new Manhattan Project. That's a bold statement.
What makes him think it's necessary?
The sheer scale of resources needed, the risks, if we get this wrong, existentially wrong, mind you, the potential for conflict if it falls into the wrong hands. He argues private companies, even with the best intentions, just aren't equipped to handle this alone.
So much to unpack there, but I do remember one slightly more hopeful point. He makes the idea of a new Quebec agreement. What was that again?
Oh, right. So the original was the secret pact between the U.S. and U.K. in World War II. They pooled resources to build the atomic bomb.
Okay.
Aschenbrenner says we need something similar now, but for AGI. A global alliance, the democratic nations, working together to make sure it's developed safely, ethically, for the benefit of everyone.
It's a powerful idea. A reminder that as daunting as all this is, we don't have to face it alone.
And that's just the start. We haven't even touched on the potential of unhobbling games, completely changing the game, or the ethical dilemmas when AI starts making decisions that impact millions, billions of lives.
So it's this balancing act. We want to unlock AI's potential, but not unleash something we can't control. Which I guess brings us right back to super alignment, right? How do we make sure that even as AI gets more power, more freedom, it's still working for us?
The million-dollar question, and honestly where this report gets a little less concrete, a lot more thought-provoking.
Meaning, even Aschenbrenner doesn't have all the answers.
He doesn't pretend to, but he does point to some promising research avenues. Like, one idea is moving away from hard-coding morality into AI. Trying to define human values in a way a machine gets consistently. It's proving really tough.
Maybe impossible.
Maybe. So if we can't just program good AI, what's the alternative? Well, he talks about value learning, designing AI that learns values through observation, interaction.
More like how kids learn right from wrong, by watching, experiencing consequences.
Exactly. It's early days, but promising, especially combined with another thing he stresses, making AI more transparent, explainable.
Because right now, it's mostly a black box, right?
Yeah.
Especially the really powerful stuff. We get answers, but not always the why behind them.
Right. And that's a huge problem if AI is making real-world decisions. So part of superalignment becomes, can we make these systems explain themselves in a way we understand?
Trust but verify. Can't just blindly trust AI no matter how smart it gets.
Couldn't agree more. And this ties into something else that gets overlooked, the human element. Even with the best AI, the most transparent, it's still us designing, using it.
So AI safety isn't enough. It's about us being wise about it.
100%. That's why the report stresses education, awareness, open discussion. The more people get this, the better equipped we are as a society.
It's like the early internet days, everyone thought, oh, keys, understanding. And yeah, it's done good, but also so much harm, misinformation, division. We don't want to repeat that mistake with AI.
Exactly. Learn from the past, anticipate the downsides. And that's on all of us, not just the tech people. Speaking of downsides, the report doesn't shy away from those. AI making inequality worse. That's a big one, yeah.
Within and between nations, right. He makes some scary comparisons to the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, where tech progress didn't help everyone equally. Social unrest, the whole 9 yards. With AI, it's even more critical that the benefits are widespread.
So how do we do that? Make sure AI is a force for good for everyone.
That's the trillion-dollar question. The report had some interesting thoughts, like investing in human capital alongside AI.
Meaning.
We can't just build smarter machines. We need to invest in people too.
Yeah.
Education, training, safety nets to help everyone adapt to this AI-powered world.
So retraining for jobs that get automated, education for the future economy.
All of that. If we don't, a few benefit, and everyone else is left behind, that's not just unfair, that's a recipe for disaster.
He also talks about rethinking work itself, right? Not just replacing jobs, but what does work even look like in this future?
Right. He says, don't fear AI as the job killer. See it as freeing us from the boring stuff so we can focus on creative, meaningful work. It's a big shift in thinking, for sure.
In education, in how we design our economies, everything. But the alternative, AI just making inequality worse, that's not a future anyone wants. We're talking about superalignment, ethics, global cooperation, even rethinking work. But then there's this even bigger thing the report hits on, right? Almost a philosophical question. What does it even mean to be human when machines are this smart?
That's the big one, right?
It feels like AI is forcing us to confront some really deep stuff about ourselves. What is intelligence, consciousness? What makes us unique? And these aren't just like, fun what-if questions for over coffee. This stuff has real consequences for how we actually build AI, right?
Huge consequences. I mean, if we don't know what we're aiming for or trying to avoid, we could end up with AI that just reflects back all the things we fear most about ourselves.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of terrifying when you put it that way.
Yeah.
So how do we even start to wrap our heads around this stuff? This report doesn't have all the answers, does it?
If it did, I'd be very suspicious. This is uncharted territory, really. But he does make a point of saying this can't just be left to the tech people. We need everyone.
Everyone.
Philosophers, ethicists, artists even. People who think about the human condition, We need those voices in this too, not just code writers.
It's like, we need a whole new renaissance. But instead of rediscovering ancient stuff, we're figuring out what it means to be human now, with machines getting this smart.
I love that analogy because it highlights something crucial. It's not just about preventing the worst case scenarios. It's about actively building the best possible future with this tech.
Right, because it's easy to get bogged down in the scary headlines.
Yeah.
But there's amazing potential, too.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine AI helping us solve climate change, cure diseases, wipe out poverty even.
Okay, now that's a future worth fighting for.
It is. And Aschenbrenner argues it's not some pipe dream, it's within reach. But only if we make conscious choices, if we prioritize human values, if we shape this tech for everyone's benefit.
So not just mitigating risk, but actively designing a better future alongside AI. I like it.
And to that end, there's one final point I want to make sure we hit. It ties everything together. He talks about needing a global AI ethic.
Okay, that sounds big and important,
Yeah.
but also kind of vague. What does that actually look like in practice?
It's not about some rigid rule book, thankfully. More like fostering a shared understanding of what should guide AI, transparency, accountability, fairness.
Making sure AI reflects our best values, not our worst impulses.
Precisely. He's saying if we want to avoid AI being used to divide us, control us, dehumanize us even, we need this shared ethic globally.
So less competition, more cooperation, which is honestly a message I think we could all use a little more of these days.
Amen to that. And it's a call to action for everyone listening. This AI future. We're not just passengers along for the ride. We're the ones building it.
That's a powerful message to end on. It can feel overwhelming, all this, but we have agency here. The choices we make right now determine the future, and those choices are ours to make.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This deep dive, it's about giving you the knowledge to make those choices. What's at stake, how to be part of this conversation, how to demand better from our leaders. This isn't some far-off thing. This is happening now.
We've covered a lot, from the nitty-gritty of building AGI to, like we said, those big philosophical questions about what it even means to be human in this new world. The risks, the rewards.
But more than anything, we hope you come away from this feeling empowered, not overwhelmed. Because the future of AI is not set in stone. It's something we're creating right now together.
Stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged. The future is waiting.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.